Hello, everyone. Welcome to BizTalks Unplugged, Season 2, presented by INR The Insight Room, where we open the floor to unrestricted and unscripted dialogues for curious business minds. Our today's guest needs no introduction. He's a pioneer in the line of fields. It is none other than uh, Dr. Animesh Saxena, and it is my honor to introduce him hereforth. Dr. Saxena is the Managing Director of Neetee Clothing Private Limited, a government-recognized star export house that has been serving global markets in the apparel sector over the 3 decades. Since the founding in the 1993, he has built Neetee Clothing into a respectful export organization, navigating the complexities of global supply chains, international buyers, expectations, and evolving trade environments. Beyond his entrepreneurial journey, Dr. Saxena has also played an influential role in representing the voice of Indian industry. He served as the president of the Federation of Indian Micro and Small and Medium Enterprises, FISME, one of the most significant industry bodies representing MSMEs across the country. Through this platform, he has engaged with policymakers on critical issues affecting Indian businesses, participating in Board of Trade deliberations and pre-budget consultations with the Ministry of Finance, contributing to the shaping of MSME-focused policy discourse. His journey represents the powerful intersection of entrepreneurial leadership, export competitiveness, and policy engagement. Sir, it's an absolute honor to have you with us today. The floor is all yours.
It's a pleasure, Srijan, and talk to all of you. And it's always an pleasure and honor to be part of this when my alma mater, the students from my alma mater are there. So, as you mentioned, the apparel trade, which I have been handling it for the last, it has been quite exciting journey, and being one of the India's most important sector, where, if you are aware, this textile and apparel is India's second largest employer after the agriculture. And a country like India, where the huge population base and especially the youth population, and unfortunately where our educational and skill level of that population is not very sound or great. Our sector provides them the opportunity with the very small, minimal skill training. People can be absorbed in this trade. So it has been a very satisfying journey. I mean, for the employment perspective, and probably, fashion is always glamorous. So the part of the journey.
So as we begin, it is my duty to inform you, sir, that this will be a free-flowing conversation rather than a rigid interview. And the aim is to explore your insights and your experiences, not just on the professional level, but on the individual life as well, sir. Our first segment, sir, includes the entrepreneurial journey. And we believe that any individual who is in front of us right now is the final outcome of hundreds or even thousands of experiences throughout the course of years. And looking in the past is something that can, define a person's charisma, their journey, and how they have, built into the form that today they practice with such, mastery of a craft. So can you tell us something about your early professional journey, and what was your home structure like, and the inspiration which brought you to the entering into the export manufacturing and the other processes?
You see, I passed out in 1983 from FMS, Banaras Hindu University. And after that, I joined a public sector undertaking. It was quite well known those times, State Trading Corporation. And under State Trading Corporation, they had a few subsidiaries. So one of the subsidiaries was the Handicraft and Handloom Export Corporation, which was engaged into exports of Indian crafts, carpets, garments, textiles, everything. And I got the opportunity to join them as a management trainee. And that, my tenure there shaped me for exposure to the international market, their requirements, the way of approaching the market and distribution channels, all the processes, the documentation, the payment. So that was a great experience for me. And I worked there for almost up to 92. So almost 9 years I worked there, grew in the company from and handled the different products. So my last product which I was handling in the organization was the ready-made garments. Before that, I handled carpets and handicrafts and everything. So that was interesting part. And during when I started my career, after passing out from FMS, I got the opportunity from my organization. They sponsored me to a new upcoming management institute called IMI, which is still surviving now. And IMI was primarily meant for international business. This was 1 year course, and I was sponsored by my organization immediately after joining to go and do that course. That also helped me for exposure of and understanding the nuances of the international business. So these 9 years when I worked there, I had a decent experience of the product, the markets, different way of marketing channels, everything. So I came across an importer who was based in US, and they were a medium-sized import organization. We were importing garments from India, and they were our customers also in this organization. They were looking to start a backward integration into India to ensure their supply chain is intact and caters to their requirement. So that is how my entrepreneurial journey started. So they offered me this opportunity if we can come together and start a backward integration operations here. So, I mean, it was in '92 when then I resigned the job and took up this challenge. Though those days, working for government or PSUs was always very respected and very safe and secure kind of. That time it was the golden time for the PSUs in India. They
True
were
enough, sir.
growing, they were recruiting, management graduates. So there was a lot of pressure from the, peer pressure from the family also, the thing that a person, when you are in middle of your career, spent 8, 9 years, why you want to take this plunge? But I felt that probably I can handle that. And I had confidence that, and that's how I took the plunge. I said, okay, let's go back. I mean, I'm a professionally qualified person. If it fails, I still have the option to come back to the corporate sector again. So that was the idea, in fact. So whatever I was missing in my, previous job experience, that was a new learning for me. The legal requirements of setting up an organization, all the compliances, the statutory compliances, and in our trade, especially in the apparel export, there are a lot of third-party compliances where your customers want certain compliances to be maintained, like a proper, healthy work environment, safe and healthy work environment, fair wages to everyone, all sort of things. So you are in a constant watch. So it was a quite good learning. And we created an organization where we set up the manufacturing plant, building everything. So that was a quite wholesome experience for me. Recruited the team. And that's how the business started growing. But as you know, the international business, you have the threat of a lot of external factors. Anything global disturbance, which we are seeing now, which is happening, that has direct bearing on your business, any global disturbances. So when we were growing, we had to face these many challenges. And there were times where we felt that probably that going is getting tougher and probably we'll have to wind up also. But somehow we had trust in each other, the people in the US and myself here. So we carried on. And then this came 9/11, which disturbed the entire US, this terrorist attack. And our major market was US that time. So that gave us, a very important lesson that you have to widen your customer base. And that's the time we thought of branching to other countries, looking for Europe or other countries. And that was a wise decision that time. So we started exploring other markets, and it was a slow process, but we achieved that. So eventually we brought to a business where the 50% was non-US, 50% were US. We went to Japan. So that we had, widened our base of customers. and that helped us a lot. Understanding of different markets, and your product profile becomes quite this interesting and large. So that was the journey. And during the process, when you work for your own industry, uh, there is always a feeling that something you should give back to the society. So I felt that whatever my experience or an exposure, it should be enjoyed by the industry also. That's how I went into this FISME and my apparel council. So I started taking interest in that also, and it was in fact exposing me to more challenges, more information, and interaction with the different stakeholders. So that always improves your it widens your thought process.
Thought process.
It adds to your basically decision making, and probably more avenues for you. It also opens more avenues for you when you interact with us. So that has been quite satisfying, this journey. And we are brought to the level where we got recognized by the government as a star export house also. So that is what the journey has been so far.
And indeed, sir, it looks like a fantastic journey nonetheless. And over the years that you've experienced, you have come to sort of realize that it is it is important to focus on cultivating one's own capacities, but more importantly, focus on cultivating the future itself.
You're right.
And so, with the founding of the Neetee clothing, which happened in 1993, and the India's export environment in the early 1990s,
Mhm.
you had seen these, these years pass. So, what were the some of the like early realities of building an export-oriented, manufacturing enterprise in India during that time? What was
Uh,
the background things that you had to, face?
you see, when it was early 90s, the market was evolving because in India, we didn't have a very robust, quality management systems, and that time the information system was also very poor. Probably the new generation cannot visualize that. There were no mobile phones, no this emailing as a thing. So everything was a lot of things was you must have heard about the fax. The
Indeed, sir.
fax came during that time. It was not there. It used to be something called a machine teleprinter sort of machine where we had to type it and the message goes there. So there was no real time communication, and the phones were also not easily available. Landline, you have to rely on the landline, and international calls and other things. So discussion, meetings, they were very difficult things. So a lot of decisions were taken, with your own, wisdom. Because here today you in a real time you can talk to your customers, you can show them something, you can have a Zoom like we are having this meeting. So life looks like much more should have been difficult. But I think that time the people used most of their wisdom and taking calls. So as I told you, the quality system also, because as such, if you recall in your early days also, there used to be a huge difference between an imported stuff and your Indian domestically produced stuff.
True,
People
sir.
always had this impression that the domestic stuff must be great and good in the quality. So that impression was there because the Indians' mindset and the people who were manufacturing, they had this mindset. So we had to change that because the people whom we were training, that you have to think of as your customer, the customer who would be buying, and that customer who is not a domestic customer, a customer sitting overseas. So his expectations are much more. Plus the communication and the delivery on time, because there was another challenge in Indian working culture, that we uh, didn't have much respect for on time commitments, meeting on time commitments, and delivery. So there were a lot of these changes in your working and thought process and the social skills. So a lot of efforts was required in training those people. to bringing up that. Since we were traveling also when we were going to meet the customers and the customers were coming. So that used to be always a learning process, how to match to your customer's requirement. Fortunately, that time there was not much competition in our business. India was one of the most important supplier base. Bangladesh, Taiwan, they were not existing in 90s. So that was a good time also. Despite all the challenges, we were still the preferred supplier for the customers. But the whole game changed in 2005 because this apparel trade was a quota controlled trade. The Western countries, especially US and Europe, they had imposed certain quotas to every country. Like from India, only this much can be imported. From China, this much can be imported. And in that also, they had a category wise, like the men's shirt, this much quantity, trousers, this much quantity, ladies' garment, this much quantity, so all these things. So, and majority of this, our business, legally also in India, this apparel export was restricted to small scale industry. Medium size or big size were not allowed to come into this business. This was a government regulation. So what happened in 2005, the quota was abolished. So it became a free for all market. If you are good, you can do whatever business, you can get the business. And the real competition came that time. Unfortunately, as an Indian industry, we missed that bus because we still relied on those small scale units. And with this, I'll call not obsolete, but still in the old way of working, technology was not modernized. And these countries, Bangladesh and Vietnam, they seized this opportunity. And if you see logically also, if you try any greenfield project, you can always do with the modern technique and everything. But the moment you get into a brownfield project, you have a legacy of certain deficiencies and inefficiencies of that system. And then you try to build up on that. And sometimes you're successful, sometimes you may not be. But in greenfield, you can do everything the way you want. So these countries, they seize on this opportunity and they started, the bigger plants, the latest machinery, plus hiring the best, manpower globally. If they felt that the Indian technician is good, they'll hire Indian technician. They felt Sri Lankans are good, they hired from everywhere. And we were still stuck in that because for many years, this sector was a small scale reserved sector. So there was hardly any investment coming. The big player were scared of jumping into it. So we missed that bus. And then they took over the market. If you're the business-wise figure, Bangladesh is almost 2.5 times than us India. In our export. Same the Vietnam. Though India had the legacy of, this cotton, we are considered the second largest cotton producer in the world. And we have a very rich history of the apparels and you heard about the Dhaka Malmal and all these things. But sometimes what I feel, this is my personal view, your legacy becomes sometimes your handicap also. That we were so good in those times, and that sometimes stops you in keep your mind open to the new ideas. That was the probably paradox which we had to face. And so these were the opportunities which we had, and the business grew from there. So, and then what happened when supply became excess? So it used to be that time suppliers market, 90s, but 2000, mid 2000, onwards, it became a buyer market. And when it became a buyer's market, then buyers started choosing the best. And then consumer awareness also grew about the quality, about the, if you also see these days when you buy a garment, either you buy a 300 rupees a garment or 3,000 rupees a garment, you look at its quality. And most of the products which you must be wearing and buying, they last a lot, much more. I mean, the quality is pretty good now. So the consumer awareness became, And then this came this, monitoring of your supplier, the compliances, because a lot of the consumer right groups in Western markets, they started investigating because most of this apparel in Western markets were imported. The local industry, since being expensive, the business started shifting. Everything business shifted there. So there was a lot of discussion that the goods are coming from the cheaper Asian countries, and they may not be following the fair working conditions or things. So a lot of spotlight came on us. And then this consumer right organization, they raised a lot of concern. So buyer had to deploy these third party audit agencies.
Okay.
So to go and check the supplier, whether this factory is safe, healthy work environment, and people are paid timely, wages are fair, and no, bonded labor kind of conditions or no unfair treatment to workers. So these things, when we came under spotlight, we had to improve to that, to meet to their standards, because the business was linked with that. If you fail their audit, your business stops. So there was no choice. But that helped us, the industry, to become a professionally run organizations with all the safety measures, all the parameters to be followed. So this is the change which we notice, and the communication has become real with this real-time basis, and with the software being introduced in the industry, buyer has access to all your operations. I mean, you cannot lie around that you did this. They have access to your system because you have to provide them access to your system. So they know what is being produced, what is being shipped, what is the status of those goods. So these are the changes.
That that seems to be a grand, massive changes in variety of
Yes,
scenarios.
yes,
So, could it be said that the companies like the Buckingham and the Carnatic Mills, they were called Binny and Co, and the S. Kumar's Nationwide Limited, the SKNL, which owned the Reed and Taylors, do they sort of come under the basket that they, that you stated that they miss the bus, as in
yes,
the global trends?
yes, yes. They
So,
must be us because these were the big textile mills, and they were living in their own world. You see, India is a huge domestic market, and textile being a primary requirement of every human being. So they had a captive market sort of thing, and they were in their comfort zone, and they never realized this because the apparel making is largely a manual process. There is very little automation in that. So they felt that probably, getting into this hiring, and that time in India, in the organized sector, the unions were a big factor which were controlling the operation. And unfortunately, that was a tough time for the large organizations having unionized workforce. It was detrimental to the expansion and growth. So they had a legitimate concern also, these mills, that if you go for this, this forward integration of, they were producing the raw material, the textile, fabric. If they become a garmenting factories also, they'll have to hire a lot of people, and that will be an organized sector because they were themselves an organized sector. So they add these kind of manpower, a huge manpower, and it becomes a unionized workforce. They can dictate and they can, bring them to standstill anytime. And you must have seen in Bombay when the huge Datta Samant, if you remember this name,
yes, I do.
all the textile mills became sick because there were strikes, there were unreasonable demands, which were commercially not feasible to meet. So they had a legitimate concern also, and the comfort zone also. I think they had a lot of comfort zone, so they never thought of this opportunity. Some of the mills later, like Aditya Birla Group and the Arvind, but largely they came into the domestic market, which they still felt a safer zone to play with. Now Arvind is a big player in international market also. Aditya Birla is not. So they miss that opportunity. I mean, as a India, as a country, whole country, we miss that opportunity.
So, given that perspective into question, the abolition of the small scale industry reservation under the license Raj,
Hmm.
how did like contribute to the increased competition in the India's textile and the apparel industry? Knowing some of the industries got shut down and some sort of made its way.
You see, this was inevitable. When this quota regime went and India also went on this liberalization path and economy was opened up, then it was a free market and only the industry or the organization which is fit for this survival only survived. And that is always a norm in the open economy. So unless you change your operations as per the times, you modernize your plants, you're working, everything, you cannot survive. So it was there was no other option. So it helped a lot. But since we had this legacy of this trade of small scale, and even today in India's export basket of in apparel, our uh, generally usual export turnover is around $16 billion.
Yes.
If you see, the 90% or even more than 90% comes from still the small scale units, MSME units. And the bigger units are very few. I mean, they can be counted on your finger. So this legacy played a big factor. Where and most of these businesses, as MSME, they're family-owned businesses.
Yes, sir.
So it also lacked the modern way of working. Probably, they never wanted to lose control on the organization, so they didn't bring the professional manpower at the top level. Uh, of course, at the operational level, because with this NIFT and all these fashion institutes open in India, and the graduates started coming from there. But in the management side, it was only the family. So it was family to family vision. The family which felt of expanding. They had modern views and ideas. They expanded, and the organizations which we felt that they want to have a tight control, and whatever they are doing is good enough for them, they never went for expansion. So that was probably the reason. And unfortunately, this hiring a large labor force was still weighing heavily in their mind, because the manufacturing and the labor environment, if I have to say this, was not conducive in India. Manufacturing still faces a lot of challenge. The license RAS, though it said it was abolished, but still, if you want to set up a manufacturing unit, you have to go through a plethora of approvals, the factory, labor, provident fund, ESI, municipal laws. Still, there are a lot of regulations there are there. So unfortunately, with this, these are the British legacy. The government, though government has been trying hard for ease of doing business, but still a lot has to be done. So that was a deterrent for most of the entrepreneurs to expand their businesses. Plus, people were in their comfort zone. Like our business I'm talking about like Delhi NCR is a big hub for the government export. But our 90% workforce is migratory, which comes from Bihar, Jharkhand, Orissa, part of Uttar Pradesh. And bringing the workforce here, it adds to your cost, because the cost of living in Delhi NCR is much, much higher. And then in India, we have this festivals and marriages. So the workforce frequently goes back during the festivals. So a lot of uncertainty that disturbs your production cycle and processes. So I mean, ideal thing should have been like, the industry moved towards the labor pool where the workforce is. But most of the entrepreneurs, they were residents, they were born and brought up here. So they had their own comfort zone, not moving out from here. That is also another bottleneck where the industry could not expand. Plus, our one very important aspect which kept us, behind these countries. As you know, globally, the market for synthetic or the man-made garments is bigger than the natural fiber garment, like cotton and silk. India, since centuries, is known for its cotton,
Important.
and that was our legacy. And in the process, the government they never allowed the development of the man-made fiber business in India. And globally, 65% of the consumption is the man-made, especially during the winter season. In the Western countries, the winter season is bigger than the summer season. Second thing, you must be seeing a lot of this athletic wear.
Yes, sir.
Is all man-made because you need a performance fabric. Cotton garment, you see the Nike, Adidas, or whatever the sports brands, their fabric is not cotton. Because for an sports or athletic wear or the performance wear, you need those fabrics which are elastic, which has a stretch and can handle the pull and stress of your body. So unfortunately, India was not. They never, went for this man-made. They never thought of this, and the government policies were also detrimental to this. They were not supporting it. And China and Vietnam, what they did, they relied heavily. They also don't have their domestic industry producing these fabrics. They went on this importing the raw material and converting into the garment and exporting it. Part of a global value chain. You see, the entire, if you see in the world, any country who's growing and wants to become the global power, you have to be the part of global value chain. Raw material is coming from one place, conversion is happening at some other place, and market is third place. You cannot produce, make it and consume yourself. The export for any country is the most important factor to grow your GDP and to provide the jobs. And so India, our custom laws were very regressive and very cumbersome. Still they are cumbersome. So that was the reason that our industry couldn't grow and couldn't match to the requirement of the market. We are competing in the 35% of the market share, global market share.
Yes, sir.
So you can imagine if this market was open. We have been pressing with the government, but unfortunately, the textile lobby in India is very strong. They resist every move of the free import of these raw materials. And the government also has not taken that step so far. These are the challenges which our industry is facing.
Sir, I was on the same part of the Nike. I was just read the book of the Phil Knight, and he said that while he was searching about the apparels, he was first making the choice of India, but he then said that okay, the China and Bangladesh were offering a competitive pricing, and the India as well, and as well as the apparel size as well. So, do you think that if we see the what we are study that in 1982 we see the liberalization, 1999 FEMA, after the abolishment of multi-fiber agreement, and after Sydney celebration, it is all thing. India was on the pace that okay, we can do the things in our hand, but still we lost the bus. So is it just about the mindset, no entrepreneur in that period of time?
It's a combination of factors. Indian entrepreneurs are very dynamic, but when they get an equally supportive environment, you will be surprised to know that some of the biggest players in this Southeast Asia, from Hong Kong to Colombo, and people who are so, they are Indian origin people.
Yes, sir.
So Indians and the Bangladesh industry, all the merchandising people who were handling the businesses, they were all Indians. So what they did, the Bangladeshis were very smart. They had the manpower, which was abundance, and they had hardly any employment opportunities. So they utilized the best possible, strength. Their own manpower, which was needing the jobs, and especially the woman manpower. Second, They hired Indian people to, manage their merchandising, which is the business. And technically sound, they hired from Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan technicians are considered the best in our industry. So they chose best of everything, and the material also. They had no legacy of cotton or they producing in their country. So their focus was import the raw material, labor is cheap, convert into the garment and add some value and export. So they had a very simple way formula of this. In our country, the government norms and these things were so stringent that they never allowed you to do all these things experiments. Plus, people were afraid of hiring. Bangladesh, a common factory size is 2,000 machines, sewing machines. In India, the standard is 200 machines factory, because they felt if you are hiring 2,000 machine, setting up a factory, you're hiring 2,000 people to sew the garment and then equal number of people to handle the other tasks. A 5,000 factory is a time bomb. It can explode any moment. And then the inspectors, every government department starts coming that, for little tiny violations and other things. So it's the harassment and people don't want to get into that trouble. So people never thought of expanding it. Plus the labor laws were, so obsolete. If you go through our old factory acts and books, you'll be surprised. They were around, 80-year-old factory laws.
Yes, sir.
Time was different in those times. Protection was more. It's a free economy. If you're good in your work, you will survive. If you're no good, you will not survive. When you go and work for a corporate sector, what happens? If you are good in your work, organization will always retain you. They'll value you. But if you are useless in your work, why they'll keep you? But in workers, it has a protection. It cannot be fired. And then they have a labor code, labor department to protect them. So these were the challenges. You must have heard about the new labor code.
Indeed, sir.
Yes, sir.
Which last 15 years, 20 years, this has been being discussed that India has to reform that. But no government had the willpower to implement that.
Yes.
Similarly, the overtimes. Still, we have that obsolete law of, in a month, you cannot do an overtime. A worker is not allowed to do overtime more than 16 hours a month. So these are the, bottlenecks which government never, because what was happening, and that went against the, organized sector. Because of that, the job started shrinking in the organized sector. No big manufacturing plants now being set up where it's all the automation. All the big corporates, they're going for automation. Reliance, you'll be surprised to know, Reliance being the biggest business in the world, not only in India, the number of people they employ is the same which India's biggest garment exporter employs. India's biggest garment exporter is Shahi Exports. And they do a turnover of around 10,000 crores. Reliance turnover is how much? Few lakh crores, maybe. I'm not aware of the figure exactly. And Reliance, the number of people employed in Reliance are the same which Shahi is employing. So you need more Shahis. Country like our 1.5 billion population country need less Reliance, more Shahis. You see the huge population. We are the biggest youth population in the world, and which is not very well educated or skilled. So how to find them employment? You need these kind of labor intensive industries. They should be encouraged by the government. They should be supported. All the from the regulation point of view, from incentivizing them and making their life easy. This is the way forward. But unfortunately, government has more other priority challenges. So this gets neglected sometimes.
Indeed, sir. Sir, from your experiences in the FISME, What are the most pressing challenges MSME is continuing to face today as well? Because we have seen the complete supply chain on the online side. We have the
Yeah.
e-modes, we have things on that part, but still the MSMEs are facing today.
Yes, the biggest challenge which MSME faces, the funds, availability of the funds, because most of the entrepreneur in India, the total number of units which are registered on this Udyam portal, almost 6 crores. And out of that, 98% are in micro and small. Only in India, you'll be surprised that the medium enterprises, which is around 200 crore, they are only less than 2,000 in the whole country. So these micro and small enterprises, they are typically the owner-run companies, the small owner
Yes.
companies. For them, the biggest challenge comes the raising the money to run their businesses. Because when they supply to any bigger clients, because most of these MSMEs, they are not, B2C, they are B2B.
B2B.
They are part of the supply chain and they don't get paid on time. Most of the MSMEs, they get paid after, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days. And no banks banks need collateral, a sound collateral security to fund them. And these units, they don't have a collateral security, and a good quality collateral security. The second thing, they operate out of non-conforming areas because they are small units, 10 people employing 10, 15, 20 people. For them, operating in the, in the approved government industrial estates is not feasible. First, the land is expensive there, very, very expensive. Even you rent it, it's not cheap. Then you come under all the regulation, every inspector starts coming to you. And unfortunately, the law for a 10-member unit manufacturing setup is the same, requirement is the same for for the Reliance. So, and a person who is a one-man show, person who is running, he is the purchase manager, he is a sales manager, he is a finance manager, and he is a production manager and a factory manager also. How do you expect him to know every law of the Factory Act, the safety, health, welfare, everything? Now it's natural. He may not be aware of all the regulations, plus all the filing of the returns, making the registers. So either he has to hire the people, which he cannot afford, or he goes to a consultant who does all the paper. The consultant will be charging a fee. It forces him to operate out of these non-conforming areas, either operating from this house or some, areas where he can be, away from the, the purview of these things. And what happens in that? First, he cannot grow there because then he needs to, go for it. Second thing, he cannot modernize much. He has no collateral. Bank is not willing to finance him. So what he does, he goes and borrows money from the private sources. And that money comes with a huge interest cost. And if his supplies, if the payments are not coming on time, the interest burden kills him. And the entire country, hears about farmer suicide. There are far more number of entrepreneur suicide, especially in the micro and small industry, where the businesses fail. People have no option to kill themselves. And the business failure in our country is considered as a criminal offense. You see, abroad, business failure is a very normal process. And the government, in fact, comes to your support. If you go into your documentation, you read about the US and the thing, they have a process called Chapter 11 and all these things. Their bankruptcy is very, very professional. That the government gives you an opportunity to revive your business because the person who was running the business is the best person, knows the ins and outs of that. In India, the moment a business fails, it comes under litigation, and every person, your financial institutions, statutory obligations, the government, everyone starts going for recovering their share.
Shares.
Understand? So what happens? The business becomes, revival becomes unviable. So these are the challenges within MSMEs, the FISME. We notice the finance, easy availability of the finance, and plus the supply chain, the payments, and the in our country, the government is the biggest buyer. I don't know whether you are aware. If you see the figures, government is the biggest buyer in our country. If you look at the municipal corporation, the local body, the state government, central government, the amount of product which they buy for their own consumption is a huge. Like you, electrical industry, all the electricity boards are in the government. There are hardly any privatization in the electricity. The transformers, the wires, and the cables, is all they buy from. And government buys through this tendering process, the L1. And it is the biggest source for corruption and poor quality. Because in L1, everyone competes to be the lowest. So when you compete to be the lowest, sometime below your production cost, then you start cutting corners and manipulating the system, taking care of the people who are in the buying the quality. So the quality goes down. And that creates, cascading effect on the working culture. Because if one manufacturer who is able to win the contract and reduces his quality standards, substandard product he's supplying, he's managing with the supply with the authorities, his neighbor who is a good quality conscious manufacturer and he's failing in getting the contracts, what will happen? Either he'll shut down the business or he'll resort to the same. So that has destroyed the quality culture of manufacturing, and probably the quality manufacturer, they went out of business. So this is the biggest challenge that MSME faces in this L1 system of the thing, easy availability of the finance and working in the non-conforming areas. The government has to ease out the regulations and laws and provide them the plug and play kind of options. The young entrepreneur who wants to come into business, and educated person, you provide them an opportunity where he can put up his industry without investing into land and all these things, small sheds or something like that, and encourage him to get a government from the funding from the banks, so that he can probably start some industry without bothering investing in the land. And regulations give them some, like the government has started doing in something for the startups, for the technology startups. But technology startups, you see, first you need a very high skill of the people who want to go into this, very high level engineering, probably ideas on things, and they employ only the very highly skilled people. So manufacturing, where you can employ low skilled people or without any skill, just train them. For those entrepreneurs, you have to provide them this kind of support system, where some plug and play facility is available, person can go, finance is available, and plus have some hand holding, like support for machinery, information, attending the machinery shows. There are the international exhibitions where all the machinery vendors come. You can go and see the latest machinery, which can help you in improving your productivity and a good quality product. These support is required. These are the challenges MSMEs are facing in the country.
Sir, when you said about the Chapter 11 of America Bankruptcy Code, India also have IBC 2016. So
But
is it really, works? No.
No, it's not working. It's being manipulated. Plus, it is so cumbersome. And in India, the legal system is slow and tardy. We all know.
Yes, sir.
You have NCLT first. If there is some resolution NCLT, then you have NC-CLAT,
Yes,
tribunal. So NC-CLAT, then there's a High Court, then the Supreme Court. Because the party which is aggrieved in any of these forums goes to the higher court.
Yes, sir.
So hardly this is you see the Jet Airways, classic example. It was one of the most respected and strong airline. They went
Yes.
into this financial,
Distress.
yes. What happened? And you have destroyed the brand value. You have destroyed their assets. Whatever the planes are getting rusted,
They get
they are not airworthy now.
no, sir.
All the trained staff, they
Indeed, sir.
went haywire. Some of them got a job in some other line. Some of them must have changed their career. So you see, and the slots are empty in the airport. So what happens? We destroyed. Instead of reviving that company within 6 months, you could have utilized their brand value, their loyal customer base. So this is what happens in India. This IVC code is not working
Just
well.
So one of the key factors in this democratic processes, which have been largely acted not as a supporter to the rise of the MSMEs, but more of a barrier,
Yeah.
is like what is the skill like behind building a global apparel export enterprise in today's world? We know that the graph type of today's business is more on a four-axis competitiveness radar, where is the global apparel supply chain integration and the buyer expectation alignment, the compliance and governance, and I would say the operational and scaling ability. Together, the any individual who plans to enter into the segment has to take that into consideration. So we have seen that in the recent times, the global apparel market, where buyers increasingly prioritize scale and compliance and speed to the market and supply chain reliability over the pure cost advantage. What do you think, sir? That can India's MSME like dominated textile ecosystem realistically to evolve into a large global integrated exports enterprise anywhere?
It,
Or
it, it is a difficult process, very challenging, because what is happening in the global supply chain, the buyers are looking the cost advantage first, the cost advantage, and cost advantage only comes with your efficiency and productivity,
Indeed, sir.
and then your product basket plus your flexibility and on time delivery. There are 4 5 parameters which buyer is looking at you. In India, for an MSME to expand into the become that, first you'll have to have a very good trained manpower, so some skilling of the manpower first, and then go for some automation, some modern machineries, and third thing, expand your product basket also. Like we have, as I told, we have been only relying on the cotton kind of thing, and on time, because it's still in India, what is happening? We are at the last end of the value chain. We are the converters. We buy the raw material. So our supply chain is still not very reliable. For on-time delivery performance, your supply chain also should be equally strong with you. So for an MSME, with the MSME, it becomes very difficult to control your supply chain, because you are too small for your supply chain to handle your, give you the priority. So that is why these challenges are big challenges. Now with this government coming with this mega textile parks, this PM Mitra, it is a good beginning. It is a good beginning where the government is creating a huge infrastructure where everyone is coming under, one umbrella sort of thing. Process house is there, a supply chain will be there, converter is there, and global best practices. So these PM Mitra Park, I'm sure that once they are operational, though unfortunately the process is very, very slow. Only one park, I think, that has come to a stage where the land has been allotted and construction is happening. Other parks are still in the drawing board. Even the land allotment has not started, and though the scheme was announced almost 3 years ago, 3 4 years ago. So we are running behind it. So this journey is not smooth, and it will take, it's a tough time. But these are the ways, skilling your manpower, and probably moving towards from the big cities, going to the hinterland where the workforce is there, create a greenfield facility there, invest in your manpower, training them, and then try to compete.
So, similar question I just want to ask on that globalization part. that we are not we are the consumer and the exporter as well.
Yeah.
We have seen example of Sheen, the Sheen, which has the world largest in the textile industry, and the Inditex as well. But sir, when it comes to India, we have never seen a brand like Sheen or Inditex or even H&M which works so much hard that it can be consumed in our domestic market as well as serve as the foreign market as well.
Because as I told you, this our trade of apparel making was, legacy of the small scale. And in every city, there were small manufacturers who were producing the garments and not a brand oriented. So India was also not a very, if you see the size of the India was a very brand conscious that time. It became later. That's how the Indian brands, no brand to that size could develop now. And the people who came into the brands like, this Aditya Birla Group or Arvind, they started catering to middle class and upper class because that price segment which they were competing, other thing. Still, the lower price segment was, catered by the unorganized garment makers. That's the thing. So it became very fragmented, the market. And that's how no global player came into that kind of, like Reliance now is trying, Reliance brands, they are trying to become that. The Indian probably, counterpart of that kind of thing. And, but what happens, these companies like Reliance doesn't produce anything themselves.
Yes, sir.
They start outsourcing it. So, and like you must have heard this brand, Judio. Judio is a Tata brand. And they were probably one of the, in recent year, one of the most smart player in the market. If you see their product range, it's very international, very fashion. And they followed the model of H&M, I think, where they changed their merchandise in 15 days to a month. Every month you go, you'll find a new merchandise.
Yes, sir.
And they created a supply base, which is, and the price range, surprisingly, they are very affordable prices.
Yes,
You can get in 600 rupees, 700 rupees item. So they probably are hitting the right, eye. And they understood this game of the business. And why their CEO was not an Indian. They brought a person from these, big companies background, and he understood the psyche of the Indian consumer. That aspiration level of Indian consumer is increasing now. With this, this smartphone, it has brought the entire world in your, palm. So every consumer, whether he is educated or not, he's living in a village or a city, his awareness has gone up. So Judio did that. And they made fancy showrooms. It's not like you're buying to, they knew that a person social status and, it also linked with what you are buying. So if you are entering into a nice, looking a glass facade, air-conditioned showroom, you feel elevated that you are buying not from a patri and you're buying from this, and the quality has to be good because today no brand, small or big, can risk producing a poor quality because the customer return is a big issue. And if you are losing a customer, generally it happens if the customer never comes back.
Yes.
If you have bad experience with one brand, most likely you will not come back to them. So that is the, so I think in India also now the Indian manufacturers are on the right track. You'll find many more Judios like the companies in India where they would be providing a good quality product at affordable price.
Just one thing, sir. We almost are related with this Zudio store framework. In one of our episodes with Mr. B.S. Nagesh, he rightly pointed out that at the time when he was building Shopper Stop, his idea of a 50,000 square feet store with a new mechanized system gateways and a 7-day return policies.
Yeah.
It almost was a was a critical, innovative approach, and it
Yeah.
paid off well.
You see, the shopper stop when they started, it was a novel idea in Indian. Most of the Indians who were not traveling abroad, they had never seen like that anything. So it became a destination visit sort of thing. More of a seeing something at this global level rather than buying. You know, that was almost. I remember in Delhi also when the shopper stop opened in Delhi, and in my neighborhood and all, people were just going to see, look at that, and spend some time there. Shopping was secondary, and because that was a global experience, they showed us that how the shopping happens globally. That was a novel idea, and that clicked. But you know what happened to Shopper Stop later on? Because what happens? The only constant is the change. A lot of people came in that format, and they're beaten Shopper Stop. First Shopper Stop remained in the middle to top end, and they were sourcing the apparel from different brands and displaying them, but they failed to capitalize on their initial success. Any one of you go to Shopper Stop now?
No, sir.
So you know why you don't go, because it doesn't excite you. So Nagesh was my immediate senior.
Okay, sir.
So I knew him. I was when in the first 2 semesters, he was in the senior semester. So we all know. And he was a poster boy of Indian retail industry and what he did. But later on, you know what happens? Some innovator comes, but the other people are probably the smarter. They beat you in the business. Like China, the technology. China never innovated any technology. It was all Japan, Germany, and other countries. But China has beaten them all because they capitalized on their initial work. They understood the game. They produced the same thing in a cheaper price and a mass volume. Understand? So they understood the customer psyche. That customer wants to experience that thing, but they cannot afford that price. So give them that experience with a cheaper price. That was it.
Indeed, sir. So my next question is that, like, for companies actively pursuing the China plus one strategy, what has been the single biggest operational challenge that you have faced in setting up an alternate manufacturing base outside India?
Everything that can go wrong was happening with us. So we are nowhere in the China plus one. It is just to keep us happy or satisfying it and good to speak in the public forum. But honestly, we are nowhere. Because, as I said, we never had the vision to meet that. For China plus one, you need to provide the same experience to the customer which China is providing. If a buyer, suppose like you, I treat you as a buyer. You go to a store and you are used to a certain, ambience there, quality, servicing, product, price, everything. But somehow you want to move away because you are not happy with the attitude of that owner or something, arrogance or whatever. You will go to next store, you will expect the same treatment. You will never would like to, reduce your expectations because you have tasted that treatment and you want the same to be offered to you. So India, unfortunately, could not match what China was offering. The flexibility, the size, the swift action, everything, raw material, the kind of the range of the raw material China has, they're producing the textile mills and the work culture. If you travel to China and see a manufacturing facility, you'll be amazed. You may be seeing their videos, you'll be amazed to see how they work, how they operate. And then you realize that we are far, far behind this. So we could not offer a single advantage which China was offering them. And that opportunity was seized by Vietnam and Bangladesh. They understood that model, that create a big size factory with the modern machine, get best of the manpower, the talent to operate, and no, this that I have to use my own raw material, I'll not import. Import is not a dirty word. Unfortunately, in our country, import is always considered a dirty word. So for them, they get the best out of everywhere and produce the best. So we lost that opportunity.
And sir, what must be do to become a preferred global manufacturing destination? Like if India want to achieve something, so what must India do to become a preferred global manufacturing destination?
You see, there's confusion as an India or an individual manufacturer.
So as an India,
As
sir.
an India, then India will have to first, allow the very, user-friendly import regime for the raw material, so that you can have access to the best of the raw material at international prices. Understand? India produces very limited raw material, especially in the man-made fiber, and at a much, much higher price than the global international prices. You cannot compete with that. Plus, the range is also missing. So, India has to create a very, very liberal, import-friendly, user-friendly environment where you can easily import without any cumbersome process and export. Then they should liberalize some labor, these laws, and create a conducive environment for that, where people can invest into large factories without bothering for the repercussions or the on that. Plus land, and because the land is becoming very expensive, so India, the government has to create these, these like textile parks, many more kind of this, and at an affordable price, where the industry can be put up on that. So all these three, four things government has to do. Plus, government should encourage some FDI into this, like the large manufacturers of Vietnam and China, where they should encourage them to come and either collaborate with the local people or open their own factories. Government should encourage them. Some road shows, like what is happening these days. Our industry has become a focus industry in terms of providing the job opportunity. A lot of state governments, especially like Jharkhand, Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Orissa, they are offering very, very investor-friendly policies for this. So they will have to go and do these road shows abroad in these manufacturing countries and attract some FDIs. This will create an ecosystem. Suppose what I mean with that ecosystem means, suppose a big investment comes in one part of the Jharkhand, a big factory. They will bring the global best practices first, the best of the technicians, train the local manpower. And once this industry starts operating, people would be leaving their job, and some new entrepreneurs surrounding area, they'll learn from them. They'll start putting up their factories. So it becomes a complete, ecosystem. Like any big industry brings some, environmental or social or business changes in that area, a culture. So these are the ways government support is required. Then only we can be a preferred global supplier. For, the Western buyers, I think they still like India because
Yes.
of your robust democracy and no political unrest sort of things. So they have this faith in India, but our supply chain has not been reliable to meeting their requirement, and that is the reason they are not coming to us.
So as we move forward, we come to the closing levels. There is a segment that we try to bring about to every guest. It's a rapid trio segments where we ask a couple of questions. You may respond to them however you may see fit. Uh, it is a way we do just to lighten up the mood because conversations like these could have a heavy impact on everyone. So, if you agree, sir, should we move forward?
Yeah, please.
So, if you could delete one government approval required to start a manufacturing unit tomorrow morning, which one would you disappear first?
It is not easy to answer because it's a complicated web of the approvals which you require. I mean, approval is not bad, but there has to be a single window system. So what I'll prefer, every government should have a single window in real sense. What happens? There is a fashion to use by the government single window system, but in single window, multiple window opens inside. So single window means there has to be in every district of the country should be one district industry center sort of thing. A person walks in, there has to be one, bank these days you have a customer relationship manager.
Yes, sir.
There has to be an industry relationship manager. You walk to that person, you tell that you want to start an industry and you want all approvals. That person should get you all the approvals in a 15 days, a month's time on your, sir, these are your approvals. Now you start your factories, something like that. It helps you in the bank finance. It does the matchmaking for you with the machinery, other thing. So this is what I want.
So, what is the most common myth young people have about running a textile manufacturing business?
It's manufacturing is you have to dirty your hands, and no young entrepreneur wants to on a shop floor kind of life, because what is happening, you are seeing in a fancy multinational company job where you are 5 days a week and you're working in an air conditioned environment with smart people hanging around you, and a life after 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. life, you can go and enjoy a peaceful drink with your friends. Okay. So, on the shop floor, you are stuck 24/7 because anything can go wrong with your manufacturing process, or a lot of uncertainty in the process. Your raw material has not reached on time. You're struggling with that because the machines will stop, or there is some government thing has come to you. So you constantly struggle. And most of the young entrepreneurs whose family has been into the manufacturing business, when they see their life, it is a deterrent for them. So this is the reason most of the young entrepreneurs, they don't want to come into the manufacturing. They all want to go to sophisticated kind of thing, service industry, or which can be handled not on a shop floor experience.
So, what do you find is harder today, getting a global export order or finding skilled labor to execute it?
This is chicken and hen, or what? Chicken and egg, what you call. Because getting a global order is not possible until you have a state-of-art factory and setup. For a state-of-art factory, you need a skilled manpower and invest in the setup. So first you have to invest and then look for the business. Unfortunately, our culture has been in our country that you want return on your investment from the next day. So you don't want to invest in one go and then look for the buyers. So, but I still feel in today's scenario, you'll have to create first a very global standard manufacturing operation, and then you start looking for the customer, and the customer will come then, and they'll see your global and you're globally competitive, not only in terms of the quality standards and the your factory compliant factory. You have to be competitive in the price also. Then business will come to you.
So, if you would have to describe in one word, what is the biggest bottleneck for Indian manufacturing today? Is it policy, capital, talent, or mindset?
I'll say policy and mindset. I'll club it together.
Okay, sir. Sir, if you were suddenly woke up to find yourself as the India's textile minister, what is the first policy change you would announce before lunch?
The easing up the raw material availability, the import of that.
Thank you, sir. With that, we move forward. We move to the ending closing, sir. As we come to the conclusion of our session, there is one question we always ask to every of our guests. Supposedly, sir, if you move back decades and you find that there is a young, Animesh dreaming of entering into the textile industry, what's the one piece of advice you would, give him, along with the next generation of entrepreneurs, entering into the, manufacturing industry of today?
You should be a person focused and passionate about and open to the ideas. Learn something what is globally happening and implement it with the full conviction that it has to be done. It has to be done this way. This is what I'll prefer to do that.
Thank you so much, sir. Your journey reminds us that behind every successful export statistic lies the story of an entrepreneur who built a bridge between the local enterprise and the global markets. Thank you for sharing your insight with us today. And it was such a privilege to have you with us. The INR feels honored.
So hope you all enjoyed
Indeed.
the interaction.
Yes, sir.
We did.
Yes.
And I tried to keep it a free flowing, and a lot of probably comments were not very diplomatic and formal. This is what we experienced, and that's what I thought I'll share with you. And of course, the whole credit goes to the alma mater where I studied, and it gave me that probably the thought process to think on this. So it was a great journey, and I enjoyed also interacting with all of you.
Hello there. Welcome viewers to